Hi, I'm Dennis, and welcome back to the All Scale Slot Car Den. This is a follow-up video for the one I made yesterday about the new AutoWorld AMP chassis, the accelerated modern performance chassis. And they're a new and exciting product from AutoWorld, a brand new chassis that they're going to have on a lot of their new vehicles. They say they're still going to continue with the old uh, extraction T-Jets, Super 3s, and 4 gears, but they're going to have an AMP version in each of them. So it's the way of the future, and so they're here now. The future is here. The new AMP chassis have arrived in sets only until about April. They're in 2 sets right now. This is the Gold Rush set with these outstanding dump trucks. The more I look at them, the more I drive, the more I love them. And it's also in extraction amps for Blues Brothers set. So I just wanted to do this follow-up video because in the previous one, I had the yellow truck run around, but the red one had an issue right off the start where the pickup shoe came dislodged and I lost the spring. And that was an issue right off the start. It was very disappointing. But in defense of AutoWorld, sometimes things can happen in the shipping process or at the plant or something where things just aren't seated right, and things can happen. My error, I didn't check my track joints before I took them around, and it hit hard on a snag. This one was more susceptible than any other car that I had run, and right off the bat, it took the shoe right off and launched the spring. So in my error in not checking my track joints, I've since taken a screwdriver and evened out the track joints. I didn't check the springs, didn't check the tension right off the bat. I was just a giddy little kid just wanting to take the car on the track. I just looked at it and said, okay, let's take it for a ride. So, from now on, I've learned my lesson, and hopefully this can help others. And just checking the tension, make sure things look right, make sure the gears look right when they turn, and just checking it out. And doesn't have to be perfect if you're not really racing these. It just has to run well. And that's it. And so I've learned, and now I did a search for the spring, and after a thorough search, I did find it. In the meantime, I was looking to see what other springs can go in there. I thought, well, since this is the new version of the extraction chassis, well, maybe the extraction pickup shoe spring can fit in there. And I took the right one off. It happened on the left. I took the right one off to see what the spring looked like. And it is longer and narrower than the regular extraction pickup shoe spring. So it wasn't quite a good fit in there. I actually tried to put one in, and it doesn't sit well in there. Now, there is a little well, which is really nice to have. A little well, not very deep, but enough to have the spring sit up correctly in there without not too much fuss. As you know, sometimes it could be a little fussy trying to get those springs to sit up right and trying to get the pickup shoe back on. But this one went right back into that well, and it was really nice. And so when I was faced with putting the shoes on, I didn't make note if there was a front and back. There's no indication of it. But to my eye, which is not a very good eye, they're very symmetrical. The clips in there were very symmetrical of front and back. So I said, well, it could be a 50-50 shot, and I'm usually 100% wrong on 50-50 shots. So I said, I'm just going to put them in. I'll wing it, stick them in there. They spring right back in there. You set the spring up right in there, and it stays on well. Well, you try to seat these again, and they clip right in. Not much of a fuss. And if I'm 100% wrong, I could tell you these still work well. So I don't think there's a front and back, but if there is and you do it wrong, I think you're going to be okay, because I've literally driven this now for hundreds of laps, and they've held up well. I've had no issues with the springs or the pickup shoes coming off or any of the gears, or no issues. So let's take it over to the Friday Night Lights over here and see what the pickup shoes are doing after hundreds of laps. And as you can see, there's a normal wear pattern, which is typical if you're going to, take your slot car around for a long time. And that's a normal wear pattern. But to my eye, I don't see anything that's a major problem other than that little bit of wear that's going to happen. If you're only driving your car around on a Sunday drive, like most of mine do, these things will probably last forever. If you're racing them and you take them constantly out, if you have just a few cars and you're constantly driving them, eventually, like all shoes, they're probably going to wear out and you'll need to replace them. And I'm sure Auto World is going to come out with some replacements for them. And as the mayor had commented in my previous video from Gale Force Raceway, that he noticed that the contact patch is not much smaller than the extraction contact shoe patch, that area that actually makes contact with the track. So although they're very short, the contact area, which is the most important part, is very similar, just maybe a little shorter. So, and it doesn't seem to be an issue here. So we'll see what happens as time goes by. I'm looking forward to other reviewers and what they think of these and how long these are holding up. But I can tell you I've had no more issues like that initial one. Probably just was a little unseated there and I didn't notice it and it took off right away. But since then, no problems. Now, having the double magnets on there to compensate, I guess, for the lack of the extraction magnets, it seems to even out. I don't see much more downforce. Now, of course, this is a pickup truck. I mean, sorry, pickup truck, a dump truck. So you're gonna be top heavy. So that's to be expected, and it makes it a lot of fun. There's a lot of enjoyment taking these around the track. And if you love slot cars, you have fun with any different kind of car. Everything is different individual experience, and that makes the hobby fun. And see how it's not the greatest, but like I had said in my other video, if you keep these to themselves, race them amongst themselves, you race them amongst themselves, you're probably not going to have any problems with them. And you're going to enjoy them if you have a 2-lane race or a 4-lane race or an 8-lane race, whatever you do. I think you're going to be really ready to enjoy them. And so now I just want to show you another experiment I did. And I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to take this off. And I said, since this is an extraction chassis, this should be the same chassis that comes out on all the cars, all the other vehicles that are extractions, not just the dump trucks. So I said, well, let me put it on an extraction type car and see how that chassis does. Now, of course, I don't have my phone stand set up, and I'm going to have to get in the habit of doing that, so bear with me for a second. So I have placed it on this AFX BRA Datsun from the Aurora days, just to see how it would go. Now, let me tell you something. I first placed it underneath this AMC Javelin, another Aurora product. And here, let me put this back down again. Sorry. Now, what happened when I put it underneath that Javelin was that it didn't run. It was very, very sluggish. And come to find out that I think it pressed this yellow, is that called a capacitor? I'm not sure, I apologize. But I think it pressed this down because of the fit inside there. And so there wasn't much room for it. And it pushed this down, and that affected the performance greatly. And I said, oh no, did I just break the chassis just by putting a body on there? And then I realized when I lifted this up a little bit, it was back to normal perfectly. And so I don't know how that's going to be dealt with, if that's an issue when people try to put these on and off their cars. If that's on the regular extraction car chassis, that might become an issue, that it's sitting up a little too high that when you bend it down, it causes a problem. But I put it on this Datsun, which has plenty of room underneath there. And let's see if I can snap that on with one hand. No, I'll put you down for a second. All right. There we go. So now, let's hopefully I didn't push down on that yellow piece. And let's see how the Datsun runs. Okay, it's running. And we're going to see how it runs on a regular extraction. I want to show you just how nicely these run. Okay, it still wipes out when you're not careful, but that's with anything. So if you see how this is running, this is on roughly 14 volts. And I can really floor it, and it runs pretty similar to, I would say, the Super 3 chassis. And I think it's very nice. And as I wipe out. So there you have it. It's a very nice chassis, and I really enjoy them. And I think if it saves Auto World a few bucks manufacturing each one of these, as opposed to the regular chassis that they have, then that's a good thing for the hobby. That's a really good thing for the hobby. The purists, you know, it's hard to say that a lot of people are going to enjoy them as much as the older versions of these gears, because these are a lot of fun to put together. And I know I grew up, you know, building these cars. They're a lot of fun to build, take apart, mix and match parts to try to get the best performance out of them. There's so many parts in there. But that's also a downfall when it comes to manufacturing things these days, is that the more parts, then the more cost. So in order to keep the costs down, which I'm assuming Auto World is trying to do, then they're going with a more basic chassis with less parts. It's, you know, in the future, people won't be able to tinker as much with their chassis. They probably can only just, you know, take the magnets out if they want, replace the springs and the shoes, and maybe replace the motor if they need to, if something happens, or if there are upgrades available. So there'll be less chances to tinker, but it is what it is. And if they do keep the older versions, that's all fine and dandy for everybody. Everybody will have something, and that's what makes the hobby great, is all the different options. And it's great to have options. And I'm going to put you down one more second so I can replace that back onto the dump truck. And this video is really crying out for my need for getting my stand ready when I do videos. So here it is, and it's back in action. The dump trucks from Auto World, the Gold Rush trucks, and they run fine, and there's no problems with them now. And I hope you enjoyed this, and if you're inclined to get some dump trucks, I would say go for it, because they're very nice trucks, very nice looking, and very nice performing. You don't have to keep the chassis on the dump trucks. You can trade them out with some other cars, and just be aware of that issue with that piece, and you'll be good. And I hope you enjoyed this, and enjoy your slot cars, and have a great day.